I always thought the worst thing that could happen to my child would come from outside the family. I never imagined it would be my own sister, a woman so obsessed with my child, that she broke into our home, stalked us for months, and nearly destroyed our lives. This is the story of how I learned that sometimes, the greatest danger comes from those closest to you, and why I will never, ever ignore my instincts again. I'm 30 now, married, mom to a beautiful 4-year-old boy. But this isn't just about me. It's about my sister, Alice, and how her obsession with creating a perfect online life led to years of stalking, manipulation, and trauma that my family is still dealing with. Growing up, we were raised in what people thought was an ideal family. Nice neighborhood. Dad owned a small company. Mom didn't work but was very involved in social events, PDA, holiday parties. It was all about how things looked. And Alice? She was the shining star. From the moment she could walk, she loved attention. Dance recitals, talent shows, pageants, you name it, she did it, with my parents beaming in the front row. I was the opposite. Quiet, introverted, preferred books and art. I spent a lot of time in my room because that was the only place I wasn't being compared to her. At first, I thought it was just the usual sibling dynamic. But by middle school, it was clear, in my parents' eyes, Alice could do no wrong, and I was, just there. She had her first blog at 13. Started doing YouTube at 15. By high school, she was internet famous, locally, anyway. Always staging photos, dragging us into her videos. Even family dinners weren't safe. I can't tell you how many times I heard, "Anna, smile. We need this for the vlog." I hated it. I told my parents, but they always brushed it off. Alice is creative. Be supportive. So I kept my head down. Focused on school. Got a scholarship. Moved out at 18. For a while, I finally felt free. I met Matt in college. We got married a few years later. We both agreed on one thing early in our relationship: we wanted a simple, private life. No oversharing online. No turning personal moments into content. Meanwhile, Alice's brand exploded. By her mid-20s, she'd reinvented herself as a momfluencer. The irony? She didn't even have kids. But that didn't stop her. She posted photos of nurseries, baby clothes hauls, parenting advice columns. She even borrowed babies from friends for photo shoots. And her followers loved it. I kept my distance. We weren't close. Barely spoke. I figured, fine, if that's her world, let her have it. I wasn't interested. Then I got pregnant. And everything shifted in ways I couldn't have imagined. Matt and I had been trying for about a year when I finally saw those 2 pink lines. I still remember how I sat on the bathroom floor, shaking, laughing, crying all at once. We wanted this so badly. Of course, our first instinct was to keep it quiet for a bit. Close family only. We told my in-laws first, who were over the moon. Then, cautiously, my parents. Their reaction was mixed. My mom gave the usual smile and, "Oh, how exciting," but I could tell her mind was already racing. My dad barely reacted. But Alice? She was unervingly enthusiastic. She cornered me in the kitchen the same night I told them. I'll never forget her words. "Anna, this is amazing content. You have to let me document this journey. Think of the engagement." I blinked. I hadn't even posted the pregnancy on my private Facebook yet. I told her firmly that Matt and I didn't want any of this online. We wanted to enjoy this privately. Alice just laughed it off. "Oh, come on, you'll change your mind. It's a golden opportunity." That was the first red flag. But I tried to brush it off. Maybe she was just excited. Except, it didn't stop. 2 days later, a DM from Alice. "Hey, I have this brand that would totally sponsor maternity wear for you. I can set it up." A week later, we should start a YouTube series, First Time Mom with her big sis mentor. The audience would eat it up. Every suggestion was about content. Not about the baby. Not about me. I kept saying no. Politely, then firmly. But she acted like it was just a game, like I was playing hard to get. Then came the texts to my parents. My mom started dropping hints. Alice just wants to support you. You're being a little cold about this. I could already feel the old family dynamics creeping back in. I was exhausted, first trimester nausea, trying to keep up with work, and now dealing with this weird pressure campaign. But I stayed firm. No content. No photos. No public pregnancy. Then, Alice escalated. She started showing up uninvited. Once, she dropped by our house with a whole bag of bump-friendly clothes, all from brands she worked with, and tried to pressure me into a photo shoot. I told her to leave. She played it off as a joke, but her eyes? Cold. And worse, she started telling her followers that she was so excited to be an aunt soon, and helping her sister through this journey, making it sound like we were collaborating, which we absolutely weren't. At this point, I felt trapped. It was becoming clear, this wasn't about family or excitement. Alice saw my pregnancy as her next big project. And I had no idea how far she was willing to go. By the time I reached my second trimester, things had gotten worse. Alice was now messaging me daily. Sometimes multiple times a day. Always about the same thing, content. We have to do a gender reveal. The aesthetic could be amazing. I found this photographer who specializes in maternity shoots. Trust me, they're booked out months in advance. Your followers would love this story, natural pregnancy, first-time mom, it's so marketable. My followers? I barely posted on social media. I had maybe 200 friends on Facebook and an Instagram I barely touched. But to Alice, everything was about audience and metrics. I stopped replying to her texts. Matt fully supported me. He was furious about it, actually, especially when Alice began pestering him too, messaging him on Instagram. Hey, just trying to plan a surprise for Anna. We blocked her on a few platforms, hoping it would cool things down. It didn't. She started triangulating through our parents. My mom began calling me constantly. Anna, honey, you're shutting your sister out. She just wants to celebrate with you. Why are you being so cold? When I explained that I didn't want my pregnancy turned into clickbait, my mom snapped. You're overreacting. It's not like she means any harm. Besides, everyone shares these things nowadays. It was the same old pattern, me being difficult, Alice being the excited, loving sister. By this point, I was tired. Physically and emotionally. The pregnancy was taking a toll. I had bad back pain, insomnia, and was trying to keep up with work. I didn't have the bandwidth for a family fight on top of everything. But then came the final straw. Alice messaged me a collaboration proposal. A full PDF. Branded. Outlining a content plan for my pregnancy and the baby's first year. She listed sponsorship ideas, hashtags, post schedules, and even follower growth projections. She wanted us to partner, and she'd already contacted several brands on my behalf. I felt sick. Matt and I sat down that night and made a clear decision. We were going no contact with Alice until after the baby was born. I emailed her, formally, so I had it in writing, telling her that we were not comfortable with any public content involving my pregnancy or child, and that we wanted space. Her reply was chilling. You'll regret shutting me out. This could have been good for both of us. I blocked her number that night. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Despite everything, Matt and I were determined to focus on the one thing that mattered, our son. Liam was born on a rainy Thursday in early spring. It was a difficult labor, over 20 hours, and I ended up needing an emergency C-section. The recovery was brutal. I was in the hospital for 5 days. We didn't tell anyone outside immediate family when I went into labor. No, we're on our way to meet baby. Instagram post. No countdown. Just the two of us focused on getting through it. When Liam arrived, he was perfect. Tiny, pink, with a full head of dark hair. I can't describe the love and protectiveness I felt the first time I held him. And almost immediately, the pressure from my family started again. Alice, of course, had somehow found out I'd given birth, likely through my mom, and started texting Matt's phone since she was blocked on mine. When can I come meet him? We need to do newborn photos. I already booked a photographer, they're amazing. My mom began guilt-tripping me daily. Alice is devastated you won't let her be part of this. She's your sister. Why are you being so cruel? Meanwhile, I was sleep-deprived, recovering from surgery, and trying to nurse a newborn. The last thing I needed was this relentless campaign. Matt finally put his foot down. He messaged my mom and Alice both. We are not doing photos. We are not putting Liam on the internet. Please respect this boundary. Anna needs time to recover and focus on her health and the baby. For a few days, things were quiet. I thought, maybe, just maybe, they got the message. I was wrong. 1 week later, I got a call from my cousin Jenna, who followed Alice on Instagram. Anna, did you know Alice just posted a whole story about Liam? She didn't show his face, but she's talking about being an aunt and helping her sister navigate motherhood. She's making it sound like she's with you right now. I checked. Sure enough, a series of inspirational posts, all in pastel tones, about supporting new moms and welcoming her nephew into the world. She hadn't even seen him. Matt and I were livid. He called my parents and demanded they put a stop to it. Instead, my mom doubled down. You can't control what your sister posts. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. It's not even a real picture of the baby. I was stunned. How could they not see this for what it was? Alice was using my life, my son, to feed her online persona. We decided then and there, no visitors, period. Not until we felt safe. We locked everything down. Changed our home security settings. And I blocked my mom's number too. But as I soon learned, locking Alice out wasn't going to be so simple. Liam was about 2 months old when it happened. By that point, we had settled into a rhythm, or as close to one as you can with a newborn. The sleepless nights were still brutal, but I was healing, and Matt had taken some extended leave to be home with us. We were still completely no contact with Alice. I hadn't unblocked my mom either, though Matt kept a distant line of communication open with my dad, mostly for practical reasons. We had made it crystal clear, no visits, no surprises, no dropping by. Then one Saturday afternoon, there was a knock at the door. I looked through the peephole, and my heart stopped. It was Alice. Not just Alice, she had a full entourage with her. A photographer with a professional camera. A guy with a video rig. And Alice herself, holding an enormous bouquet of pastel flowers. Matt came up behind me. What the hell, he muttered. I cracked the door just an inch, enough to speak but not let them in. Alice, what are you doing here? She beamed. I'll never forget how bright and fake that smile was. Anna. It's such an important day. The first meeting between an aunt and her nephew. We just have to capture it. My stomach twisted. It was clear, she wasn't here to see us. She was here for content. I didn't even hesitate. You need to leave. Now. And take your crew with you. Her smile didn't budge. Don't be silly. This is for family memories. You'll want these photos later. Matt stepped in then, voice hard as steel. Get off our property. Right now. Or we're calling the police. That got through to her, barely. She huffed, turned on her heel, and dramatically told her photographer, they're not ready yet. We'll reschedule. As soon as they left, we deadbolt the door. I was shaking. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. That night, we made a decision. We were going full no contact with Alice and both my parents. Total lockdown. Matt installed additional cameras. We changed all our passwords. We even spoke to a lawyer about drafting a cease and desist if needed. I also sent one final email to my extended family, explaining, without going into details, that we were taking a break from family contact for our safety and Liam's privacy. I thought that would buy us peace. But Alice wasn't finished. Not even close. The days after that uninvited visit were tense. Matt and I were constantly on edge. Every time the doorbell rang or the motion camera pinged, my heart would race. I was terrified Alice would try something again. For a couple weeks, it was quiet. Then, the online posts started. Alice couldn't access us directly, we had her blocked everywhere, but that didn't stop her from using her platform. Subtle at first. It's heartbreaking when family cuts you out during the most beautiful moments of life. All I wanted was to support my sister on her journey into motherhood. Then, toxic people isolate themselves and refuse love. But I'll always be here for my nephew, no matter what. It didn't take a genius to know who she was talking about. And because Alice had built this huge, perfect mom following, people believed her. The comments poured in. You're such a good sister. Your nephew is lucky to have you. Don't give up on them, they'll come around. Some of her more unhinged fans even tried to DM me, I assume through old secondary accounts or via mutual connections. A couple messages said things like, "Why are you keeping a baby from his aunt? That's cruel." I was horrified. The internet now saw me as the villain, a cold, controlling mother keeping my poor, angelic sister from her beloved nephew. Matt wanted to respond publicly. He was furious. But I convinced him not to. The last thing we needed was to feed her narrative. Instead, we documented everything, every post, every comment, every DM. Our lawyer advised us to keep a paper trail in case things escalated. Meanwhile, my parents, my parents. They sided with Alice. I got a letter, an actual, handwritten letter, from my mom. Pages and pages about how I was ruining the family, how I was breaking Alice's heart, how Liam deserved to have a full family, and I was being selfish. There wasn't a single sentence acknowledging my boundaries or concerns. That's when it really hit me. They were never going to protect us. We were on our own. Matt and I doubled down, no contact, full lockdown. We even warned Liam's future nanny, Jessica, who we had just hired, about the situation. Gave her photos of Alice. Told her, if you ever see this woman near our son, call us immediately. It felt extreme. Paranoid. But something in my gut told me, this wasn't over. And unfortunately, my gut was right. Liam's first birthday was supposed to be a joyful, healing day. After the nightmare of the past year, Matt and I wanted to celebrate this milestone quietly, with people we trusted. We hosted it at home, just a few close friends, Matt's parents, and our nanny, Jessica. We did not invite my parents. And we definitely didn't plan to invite Alice. But a week before the party, Alice emailed me. "Anna, please. I've changed. I'm in therapy. I know I messed up. I just want to see Liam, no cameras, no content. I promise. Please give me a chance." I didn't trust her. Neither did Matt. But then came the pressure. First my mom, she's his aunt Anna. "You're punishing the whole family. You can't stay bitter forever." Then my dad, "If she breaks the rules, then cut her off. But give her one chance." Even Matt's parents cautiously asked, would it really hurt to let her come, under strict boundaries? I agonized over it. Against my better judgment, I agreed, under a very clear written agreement. White heavy checkmark no cameras. White heavy checkmark no phones. White heavy checkmark no touching Liam without our permission. White heavy checkmark. If she broke even one rule, she'd be removed, permanently. Alice responded almost instantly. I completely understand. Thank you, Anna. You won't regret this. The day of the party, I was a bundle of nerves. Liam looked adorable in a little blue outfit. Everything was going smoothly. Friends laughing, kids playing, cake on the table. Then Alice arrived. Alone. No photographer. Calm. Smiling, but subdued. She handed Liam a small wrapped gift, a board book, and sat quietly in the corner. For the first hour, it seemed like maybe, just maybe, she really had changed. Then Megan, one of my closest friends, came up behind me in the kitchen. Her face was pale. Anna. I think Alice is filming Liam. In the hallway. My heart stopped. I ran. And there she was, standing halfway down the hall, live streaming on her phone. I couldn't breathe. But it was worse than that, the phone wasn't pointed at her. It was trained directly at Liam, who was toddling nearby, clutching a balloon. And I could hear her voice, soft and syrupy. Look at this perfect little angel. My sweet boy. My little star. My sweet boy. I saw red. I lunged forward and slapped the phone out of her hand. It clattered to the floor, still recording. You need to leave. Now. I was shaking. My voice came out in a roar I didn't recognize. Alice blinked, stunned for half a second, then tried to play it off. It was just a little clip. No faces. Get out. Right now. You will never come near my son again. Matt appeared behind me. He was beyond furious. If you don't leave this second, we are calling the police. Guests were frozen, staring. Jessica had already scooped Liam up and taken him to the nursery. Alice picked up her phone, and with a look I will never forget, one of pure, icy hatred, she hissed. You think this is over? You can't keep him from me forever. Then she left. I collapsed onto the floor, shaking, unable to stop sobbing. That night, Matt and I blocked her everywhere. I wrote a cease and desist letter with our lawyer. And for the first time, I wondered, is she actually dangerous? Because in that moment, when she looked at my son through that lens, and whispered, my sweet boy, I saw something that chilled me to my core. This wasn't about content anymore. It was an obsession. After the birthday disaster, Matt and I were done. We changed all the locks on the house. Upgraded the security system. Installed new outdoor cameras. Alerted all neighbors and gave them Alice's photo, told them to call us if they ever saw her. We even gave our nanny Jessica a new emergency contact protocol. Alice was not to be allowed anywhere near Liam. Ever. I thought Alice might back off after the cease and desist letter our lawyer sent. She didn't. At first, it was small things, or so I thought. Friends began sending me screenshots from Alice's new Parenting Mentor blog. Sometimes families are torn apart by bitterness and fear. But a real mother knows when a child needs love, even if the birth mother can't see it yet. Proper parenting isn't about ego. It's about sacrifice. It's about knowing when to fight for what's right, even if others try to stop you. She never mentioned us by name. But it wasn't subtle. Then came the photos. At first, I thought I was imagining it. One crisp fall morning, Jessica took Liam to the park. I was home grading papers. Around noon, Jessica called me, voice shaking. Anna. I think your sister was watching us. I froze. What? Where? By the fence near the playground. She was wearing sunglasses and a hood. I didn't notice her at first, but when we left, she followed us halfway to the car. I snapped a photo of her walking away. Jessica texted me the photo, and sure enough, it was Alice. We called the police to file a harassment report. They couldn't do much since she hadn't technically done anything that day, but they documented it. Matt and I were rattled. We stopped taking Liam to public parks for a while. But it got worse. Soon after, one of Matt's co-workers, who followed Alice's blog out of morbid curiosity, sent us something chilling. A photo of me and Liam. Taken from a distance, clearly without our knowledge. We were walking near a local cafe. The caption? "You can't stop a true mother from protecting what matters. Some bonds are deeper than blood." I felt sick. She was stalking us. In public. With our child. Matt and I went straight to the police again. This time they took it more seriously, since it involved an image of Liam, and clear evidence of targeted stalking. We ramped up security again. Took different routes when we left the house. Started using private indoor play centers instead of public parks. But I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured her, lurking, watching, waiting. And then came the night that changed everything. We came home from a walk, and found the house had been breached. It was a cold winter evening. Matt and I had taken Liam for a walk around the neighborhood, bundled in his stroller. Just an ordinary, quiet night, or so we thought. We were only gone for about an hour. When we got home, I immediately felt that something was wrong. The front door was locked, but when I stepped inside, the house felt off. The air had a strange, sharp smell, floral, cloying, and the lights upstairs were flickering. Matt noticed it too. "Stay here with Liam," he told me. "I'm going to check the rooms." He grabbed the small bat we kept by the door and headed upstairs. Seconds later, I heard him shout, "Anna, call the police. Now." My blood ran cold. I fumbled with my phone and dialed 911, my hands shaking. "There's been a break-in," I gasped. "Our baby's room, someone's been inside." When the police arrived minutes later, we walked them through the house. That's when I saw it, and I will never, ever forget the sight. In Liam's nursery, the window had been forced open. Glass shards were scattered on the floor. The air smelled overwhelmingly of Alice's perfume, a scent I knew all too well. And on Liam's little bed, a gift. Wrapped in pale blue paper. A perfect bow. Inside, new baby clothes, soft toys, and a handwritten card. "Your real mom is always with you." I started sobbing. I couldn't stop. The police had to help me out of the room, I couldn't even stand. They took fingerprints, photographed everything. The officers were visibly disturbed, especially by the card. Matt was white with rage. He kept pacing, fists clenched. This wasn't about content anymore. It wasn't even about stalking. It was a full-blown delusion. Alice had convinced herself that Liam was hers. That I was in the way. That night, we packed up and took Liam to Matt's parents' house, a gated community with full-time security. We didn't dare sleep at home. At the police station, we filed for an emergency restraining order. Thankfully, with the evidence, the break-in, the card, the prior stalking reports, the judge granted a temporary one on the spot. Alice was now legally prohibited from coming within 100 yards of us, or contacting us in any way. But I couldn't relax. Because in the pit of my stomach, I knew. This wasn't over. The restraining order hearing came fast, barely 2 weeks after the break-in. I was terrified to see Alice again. I hadn't seen her in person since the birthday party. Now we would face her in court. The morning of the hearing, Matt and I sat in the courthouse hallway, clutching our folders of evidence, photos of the break-in, the wrapped gift, the card, screenshots of the stalking posts, prior police reports, Jessica's statements. I was shaking so hard I could barely hold my coffee. And then Alice walked in. I barely recognized her. She looked perfectly put together, hair glossy, neutral makeup, simple navy dress. And on her arm, a sleek-looking lawyer. She looked right past us, as if we were strangers. When the hearing started, Alice's lawyer went full sympathy mode. "My client deeply regrets any distress caused," This was simply a case of overenthusiasm, a loving aunt trying too hard to be part of her nephew's life. She never intended harm. He spun the narrative hard, portraying Alice as a misunderstood woman with too much love to give. He even tried to suggest that I was exaggerating, isolating Liam out of postpartum anxiety. I wanted to scream. But Matt and I stayed calm. Our lawyer methodically presented everything. White heavy check mark the break-in. White heavy check mark the card. White heavy check mark the stalking photos. White heavy check mark the live stream incident. White heavy check mark Jessica's testimony about the park. White heavy check mark my friend's screenshots of Alice's cryptic blog posts. The judge, a no-nonsense middle-aged woman, asked sharp questions. Ms. Alice, why were you at the child's home uninvited, with a camera crew? Ms. Alice, why did you enter the child's room through a window? Alice tried to cry on the stand. I could see her forcing tears. I was just trying to connect. I thought Anna would come around. I didn't mean for it to go so far. But the evidence was too overwhelming. The judge granted a temporary restraining order for 6 months. Crossmark no contact with me, Matt, or Liam. Crossmark no coming within 100 yards of our home, Matt's parents' home, or Liam's daycare. Crossmark no indirect contact through third parties or social media. Alice looked stunned when the ruling was read. But as we left the courtroom, she glanced at me, and her expression shifted. Cold. Flat. Like a mask slipping for half a second. And I knew, this wasn't over for her. I was right. Because the next week, she launched an online campaign that nearly destroyed us. At first, after the restraining order, I allowed myself a sliver of hope. Maybe Alice would finally back off. Maybe the legal consequence would force her to stop. For about a week, it was quiet. Then, the online onslaught began. She didn't mention us by name, she wasn't stupid, but her blog, Instagram, and YouTube suddenly exploded with posts about parental alienation and toxic mothers. Some women can't handle letting others love their children. They isolate and control out of fear, not love. When you fight for a child's right to a full family, you risk being villainized. But the truth matters. My sister took my nephew from me. I will never stop loving him. And the worst one. Toxic mothers will destroy family bonds just to feed their own ego. But real love can't be erased. The posts went viral. She had over 200,000 followers now, and many of them ate it up. Hundreds of strangers began DMing me, on old accounts I hadn't fully locked down. Some found my personal Facebook. Why are you keeping a child from his family? You're sick. Let your sister see her nephew. You should be ashamed. Children need their aunts. We're watching you, you selfish witch. It got worse. People began leaving nasty reviews on Matt's small business page, fake 1-star reviews claiming he was abusive and that his wife was mentally unstable. We had to take the entire page offline. Matt's parents even got harassing emails. I was terrified, not just for us, but for Liam. These weren't just trolls. Some of these people genuinely believed they were defending an innocent woman and her stolen nephew. Our lawyer helped us document everything. We filed another police report, this time for online harassment and violation of the restraining orders, no indirect contact clause. But Alice was smart, she never directly tagged us or used names. Then came the final blow. My mom gave Alice our new address. She betrayed us. One morning, while Jessica was walking Liam in Matt's parents' gated community, she spotted Alice lurking outside the inner courtyard fence. Security detained her before she could get inside, but it was a clear violation of the restraining order. The police were called again. That night, I had a full-blown panic attack. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't stop shaking. Because no matter what we did, no matter how many legal steps we took, she kept finding us. And I began to wonder, how far was she willing to go? After Alice violated the restraining order by stalking Jessica and Liam inside Matt's parents' gated community, we knew there was no choice. We had to push for a permanent restraining order. Our lawyer warned us. She will fight this. Expect a performance. He was right. At the hearing, Alice showed up with a new lawyer, higher profile, clearly expensive. She wore a pale blue dress, no makeup, hair in a soft braid. The perfect victim image. And to my shock, my mother was sitting behind her. Alice's lawyer wasted no time. My client suffers from an obsessive-compulsive disorder centered around perfectionism and parenting imagery, documented by her therapist. This is not malicious intent. She is seeking treatment. She simply desires family healing. Wait, treatment? Therapist? That was news. Then Alice took the stand. I was wrong, she said tearfully. But I never meant harm. I wanted to be the aunt Liam deserved. I see now how far I went. I'm in therapy. I'm working on myself. She even produced a letter from a therapist. Our lawyer calmly countered with everything. White heavy checkmark the nursery break-in, police report, photos of the gift. White heavy checkmark the park stalking, Jessica's statement and security footage. White heavy checkmark the birthday live stream, screenshots. White heavy checkmark the social media harassment, post archives. White heavy checkmark the gated community breach, security report. Then, the clincher. Our lawyer presented emails, messages Alice had sent to several brands after the break-in, offering exclusive behind-the-scenes content about family healing and navigating family estrangement. She had still been trying to monetize us. Even after the break-in. The courtroom went silent. The judge leaned forward. Ms. Alice, you claim to be seeking treatment, yet these outreach emails suggest ongoing commercial intent tied to this situation. How do you explain that? Alice stammered, eyes wide, caught. That sealed it. The judge granted a 3-year permanent restraining order, covering. Crossmark me. Crossmark Matt. Crossmark Liam. Crossmark Jessica. Crossmark Matt's parents. Crossmark any location where Liam might be. Any further violation will be grounds for criminal prosecution. As we were leaving, Alice's therapist, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, quietly approached our lawyer and asked if she could contact us. There are things you should know about what's driving her behavior, she said. That night, I lay awake thinking. What else don't we know? Because clearly, this obsession ran deeper than we ever realized. About a week after the permanent restraining order was granted, our lawyer contacted us again. Alice's therapist has requested a call with you, supervised, with me present, he said. There's more context behind her behavior that you deserve to know. At first, I didn't want to hear it. After everything Alice had done, the stalking, the break-in, I didn't think any explanation could change how I felt. But Matt said something that stuck with me. If it helps us understand the risk, if it helps us protect Liam, we should listen. So we agreed. The video call was formal, our lawyer, Dr. Keller, Alice's therapist, and us. Dr. Keller began carefully. With Alice's consent, I'm going to share something the family does not know. Until now, she has refused to speak about it publicly, but after the court ruling, she finally agreed it's time. My heart was pounding. Years ago, when Alice was very young, she had an unplanned pregnancy, Dr. Keller said gently. At the time, she was not ready, and chose to terminate. I felt Matt tense beside me. She carried deep guilt from that decision, but buried it, even from your parents. Then Dr. Keller continued. Several years later, Alice began dating someone seriously. You may remember him. They were together for a long time, even engaged. I immediately thought of him, Daniel. He had come to family holidays. He was a good guy. Kind. Steady. When they began planning a future together, Dr. Keller went on, they wanted children. But after several months of trying, they sought medical advice. That's when Alice was told, due to complications from her earlier procedure, she would likely never conceive. My breath caught. This news devastated her. She never told your parents. And eventually, her fiancé left, unable to handle the grief or build the life they had imagined. Matt and I sat frozen. This loss, of both her fertility and her relationship, was unresolved. And when your pregnancy was announced, it triggered everything. The grief. The guilt. The envy. In therapy, she's admitted, she began seeing Liam as the child she couldn't have. The life she lost. And then Dr. Keller said the words that explained so much. The break-in, the message, the stalking, these were not about content anymore. They were a desperate, delusional attempt to reclaim what she believes she forfeited. I felt sick. Your real mom is always with you. It wasn't a taunt. It was a tragic, twisted expression of her grief and guilt. Matt asked the question I couldn't. Is she still a danger? Dr. Keller was honest. She is making progress in therapy. But this level of fixation does not resolve quickly. The boundaries you've established, they must remain. After the call ended, Matt and I sat in silence. For the first time, I understood why Alice had spiraled so far. I didn't feel pity. I didn't feel forgiveness. But I felt clarity. And I knew, more than ever, our boundaries were not cruelty. They were protection. And they would stay. A year passed. Liam turned 2, happy, thriving, unaware of the storm he had survived. We were still under the permanent restraining order. And we kept it that way. White heavy checkmark, no contact with Alice. White heavy checkmark, no contact with my parents, they still hadn't acknowledged the damage they had caused. White heavy checkmark, no public photos of Liam. No digital footprints. Matt and I remained in therapy, working through the trauma of it all. It was a slow process. There were nights I'd still bolt awake, heart pounding, imagining I'd heard glass breaking. Days when I'd see a blonde woman in a crowd and feel a spike of panic. Jessica, our nanny, stayed with us through it all. She was family now. For the most part, life slowly returned to normal. Then, about a month after Liam's 2nd birthday, we got an email from our lawyer. Dr. Keller, Alice's therapist, has reached out. Alice would like to send you a letter, through me, with therapist oversight. No requests. No demands. Simply an update and acknowledgement. Would you be willing to receive it? Matt and I debated for days. Finally, we agreed, but only through our lawyer, with strict legal oversight. 2 weeks later, the letter arrived. It was short. Careful. Controlled. I know I can't undo what I did. I was lost in grief and guilt over choices I made long ago, choices that cost me both the life I once wanted and the family I imagined. Your pregnancy forced me to confront all of it, and I failed. I harmed you, and I harmed myself. I am in ongoing therapy. I do not expect forgiveness. I only hope you know that Liam is safe from me now, because I finally understand why the boundaries exist, and why they must remain. Reading it, my hands trembled. It didn't erase the fear. It didn't erase the past. But it was a shift. A year ago, Alice had been convinced Liam belonged to her. Now, she acknowledged reality. Dr. Keller followed up with one line that stuck with me. Sometimes the healthiest outcome is not reunion, but respect for distance. I knew then, this wasn't a story of reconciliation. It never would be. But it could be a story of survival. And healing. For Liam. For us. It's now been nearly 3 years since the break-in. Liam is 4, bright, curious, full of life. He has no memory of what happened. And that is my greatest victory. Matt and I remain cautious. The permanent restraining order is still in effect. We maintain strict boundaries, and always will. Alice has stayed away. Through her therapist, we've received 2 more brief updates. Each time, she acknowledges the boundaries and expresses no attempt to challenge them. I don't know if she will ever fully heal. I do know this: we will never return to a normal family dynamic. My parents still pressure me from time to time. She's changed. It's time to rebuild the family. But I no longer argue. I simply say, Liam's safety is not up for discussion. And that is the end of it. Matt and I have learned things we never expected to face. Backhand index pointing right: forgiving does not mean forgetting. Backhand index pointing right: boundaries are not cruelty, they are love. Backhand index pointing right: access to a child is not a right, it is a privilege, one that must be earned and protected. We've also learned resilience. After years of therapy and healing, we've started to discuss a second child. This time, without fear. Because we know now. We are stronger than what happened. And for anyone who might be reading this, wondering if you're being too harsh for setting boundaries, too cold for cutting out family, too protective of your child, hear this. You are not. Protecting your child is never wrong. Even from family. Especially from family. That is the lesson this story leaves me with. And the life we are building now, one step at a time, is one I will protect with everything I have. For Liam. For us. For the peace we finally, fiercely earned.